Hello everybody and welcome to the AppleBruit podcast number 9. This is the podcast and I'm talking about the greatest, the best, the only podcast actually. This is the only podcast that talks about Apple rumors. So I think I can probably say I am the best podcast out there when it comes to Apple rumors. But then again, since I am the only one, I could also be the worst podcast. So that kind of sucks. You know, I don't I don't want that burden on me. This week I am broadcasting from an empty university class, and I have no idea if a teacher's going to come in here or not. It says, you know, like it says at the front of the doors and be like, oh, some IT services all day. And I was like, well, there's no IT services around here right now, so better walk into the class and just record. So if somebody does walk in through that door and they're like, hey, I got a class to teach, I'm going to have to pause the podcast and I'm probably going to cut. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Lots of things to talk about this week. I say that every week. Lots of things to talk about this week, including the iPhone 5, the iPad prototype. This is the original iPad. And the iPad mini and Apple TV. And of course, a whole lot more in our headlines and patents and pie in the sky section later on in the show. But with all that said, let's get the show started with the iPhone 5. And according, I was going to say according for some reason, and according to Wall Street Journal, the iPhone 5 will use in-cell touch technology. And what does this in-cell technology do? Well, it makes the screen a little bit thinner. So what that does is, I guess you can have a greater viewing angle, though I think the iPhone 4 has a 178 degree viewing angle right now. But anyway, what the in-cell technology does would be make the screen smaller, and it also reduces production costs, and it creates a better image quality for your iPhone. And this was actually surprising when I saw this, when I read this news, because I reported a long time ago, I don't know what show it was, show number 3 or 4, and there was somebody, I forgot who it was, I don't know, I have no idea about the websites and names. I'm not very good with names, as you guys might know or realize. Wintech, from a long time ago, Wintech currently creates the iPhone screens right now. And a bunch of guys were like, hey, let's look at Wintech's profits and their projected income for Q4 or Q3 2012, and they're like, hey, look at that. It looks like, their projected revenues are going to drop by like 30 or 40%, something significant like that. So they imagine, well, you know what, if that's going to happen, that means they're probably not iPhone's producers, which probably means the iPhone is probably going to have a new technology, and right now the new hot technology thing is called in-cell. And that was actually quite surprising that a few weeks ago somebody figured this out. And now, you know what? When it comes to Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg and all those fine news establishments, they're usually right. I mean, Apple probably leaks this. Now, I remember I talked about it last week where I said, oh yeah, it's now time. I think it was Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, where they're like, oh, now the iPad is going to be blah, blah, blah. And actually, I thought that somebody leaked it to them, like, I don't know, some CD Apple, person were like, hey, man, here's the file, and then gives them the file, and they're like, oh, finally, we got a leak, we got a source. But a lot of tech people, and I actually believe their argument here. They say that Apple purposefully leaks these information to these big websites because the Nexus 7 did come out, and I did talk about how much I'm actually, in love with the Nexus 7. When Nexus 7 came out, all of a sudden, all these rumors of the iPad mini comes out, and everyone goes nuts about it. So, okay, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that tangent. Whew. Oh, by the way, when I reported on this, the Wintech acquisition, revenue down before, I was like, who cares about the thinness, right? Like that's a few millimeters. But it actually does matter if you're going to try to make as thin of a product as you can. Next, according to 9to5Mac, we're still on the iPhone 5. Cases have started showing up. And these cases have larger speakers at the bottom, and it has a headphone jack at the bottom, and it has a longer form factor. And I'm showing some pictures here in the video version. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, since these case manufacturers are making these cases, of course Apple is making it because, you know, they're leaking stuff and people want to get ahead. I don't think there's a lot of credibility when it comes to these cases. And you'll see later on in the show where I was like, are you seriously? You're seriously making this case for the iPhone? And there have been a lot of case manufacturers in the past that said, oh yeah, this is what the iPhone's going to look like. And they show off this amazing looking case. And then like the iPhone 4S looked exactly the same as the iPhone 4. So there is a chance that case manufacturers would get it wrong. But here's what gives them at least a little bit of a credibility. And that's because they live in China and they have connections in China and in those factories, and they can go, hey, do you have information on this? Because if you were one of the first case manufacturers for this iPhone 5, and you got like the perfect specs and your case fits just right, you are going to sell a lot of cases. So it does make sense for these case manufacturers to say, hey, we're making these cases right now, order it from us, we'll ship it to you, and you know, you guys can profit at some point in time. But do not trust case manufacturers 100%, maybe like 95%. Oh no, don't trust them 95%. Trust them 5% of the time. You know, that's that kind of thing. Because you know what, they probably get the same information from the news sources that I get my information from, and they're like, oh, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna look like this, so let's make a case that looks like that. Next, Cult of Mac says that the iPhone 5 case manufacturers, and this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, that these case manufacturers created an iPhone 5 case, but according to, you know, to the measurements of this case, it cannot fit a 4-inch screen if you want to keep your, you know, like all these devices on top of the iPhone, like the speaker and the FaceTime camera and the home button. If you want to keep that in the same like distance away from the screen, that can't happen with this case. It's way too short. It's bigger than the normal iPhone right now, but it's way too short. And this is what I'm saying. Like, this manufacturer probably said, oh, you know, let's look at my cousin who knows a friend who knows a dog that knows a buddy of his. And then he's like, oh yeah, this is what the iPhone's going to look like. Here's the measurements. And now he's like, oh, sweet, I'm going to go make the cases. Well, sometimes they might get it wrong. And I do believe that this guy is going to get it wrong, whoever created this case. Next, the Boy Genius reports that iPhone 5 that the iPhone 5 is not yet in final production. There have been news from all over the place that says, hey, the iPhone 5, it's being produced right now. And everyone's like, oh, wow, sweet, it's happening. And it could be produced right now. But what BGR is saying is that the iPhone 5 is in engineering production levels. They are not in like final, this is the iPhone that you're going to have. Like, there's probably an iPhone out there being created. And I know there's news later on. I'm going to talk about this later on. But there are probably iPhones out there being created right now that are the engineering version of the iPhone. This means that what's being created right now probably gets shipped to Cupertino, and they're probably going to test out how the hardware works and whether or not to tweak the design, whether or not to do all this stuff. So whatever they're creating right now, if they are creating something, you and me, like no one in the public sphere, will grab a hold of it. Just saying. All right. Also, BGR confirmed. I don't know. These guys just keep saying, oh, confirmed. I'll have more stuff from VGR that says, hey, we confirmed this thing. But they say that according to their sources, that the iPhone 5 will have 4G LTE, 1 gigabyte of RAM. The current iPhone 4S right now has 512, and it's going to have NFC in it. Right. Oh, by the way, the iPhone 4, this is a tidbit from BGR. The iPhone 4 that was stolen like 2 years ago from that bar because the guy left it, that was apparently instead of engineering version 1, it's probably in design version 1. So that was like the final design version 1, and then, you know, they'll improve that. Next, oh, hey, look at that. We're moving on to the iPad. Networkworld.com says that iPad original, actually, they found a photo, or how did I turn English for some reason? They found a photograph of the iPad original. Enough of this silly stuff. They found a photo of the original prototype iPad that looks like a chunky beast. That's what this iPad looks like. And apparently, like, they were asking Johnny Ive, he was in court, and they were like, hey, you know, when was the last time you've seen this photo? And there's like a photo of this chunky iPad. If you're looking at the video version, I'm gonna show it off right here. Johnny Ive was like, well, we were working on it on, I don't do accents. You know, screw it with the accents. Johnny Ive says that he found it, or he saw this prototype at around 2002 to 2004, which is a huge amount of time when it comes to the iPad. Like, the iPad released like 3 years ago. And they've been working on it possibly since 2002, and they had a prototype in their hands since 2002. And for some of you guys that don't know what the prototype looks like, it looks like a white MacBook without a keyboard. Like, it does look like a tablet, and it's pretty much like 13 inches big. Like, this thing looks like a chunky beast, like what I said earlier. And it does not have a forward-facing button, so no home button on this prototype. And yeah, it actually looks just like a white MacBook, except, you know, without a keyboard. And it's made out of plastic, by the way. It wasn't made out of aluminum, made out of plastic. Again, from the original iPad, this is from BuzzFeed.com. They got even better photographs of it. Hey, look at that, it loaded. Last time I was going through my notes and I was like, oh man, BuzzFeed isn't loading their pictures. According to them, they saw that they found high resolution pictures of an original or an iPad 3 compared to this prototype iPad, and this iPad is chunky. It was around an inch thick. Wow, that's 3 iPads stacked on top of each other. Makes up the thickness of this prototype iPad. This thing was ginormous. Thank goodness Apple didn't make this and release this, because, you know, ugh. Oh, next. And this is the iPad mini, actually. So we're going from like this ginormous iPad to a tiny little iPad. According to iMore, the iPad mini could ship with 163 points per inch using the, you know what, I'm gonna explain this instead of just reading the thing. The 3GS screen right now, if you're looking at it, that has 163 points per inch. The iPhone 4 or 4S that you're looking at has 326. That's why, you know, that's how they can call it the retina screen, because it's 326 ppi, and you hold it like, you know, a foot and a half away from your face. And yeah, so these guys were pretty much, they didn't really have any sources, they didn't really have any of that stuff, but this is just postulation, but they did have grounds to believe what they believe in. So this is what they think. The iPad mini would probably have 163 points per inch, or DPI, I think it's DPI, I don't know, whatever. But it's going to have the same screen as the iPhone 3GS. Now you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, the iPhone 3GS is this big, you know, it's tiny, versus the iPad mini, which is big. How is that possible? How are you going to have the same screen? Well, these screens come in a giant sheets. Like, the screen manufacturer ships them to Foxconn, and Foxconn receives them, and they're like, oh, here's a giant sheet worth of a screen, and then they get a cutter and cut those sheets to specific sizes for their iPhone 3GS. Well, the same thing is going to happen for this iPad. So they're gonna receive this giant sheet and just, you know, cut it a little bit bigger. And the 3GS has 163 points per inch. And the iPhone 4 has 326. And right now that 326, yeah, it is 326. That is way too expensive to put into an iPad. If they wanted to make this iPad mini a $200 or $250 price point, a retina screen on this thing is, that's going to push up the price way too high. And also keep in mind that there's not enough room in here for a battery, kind of like the original, kind of like the iPad 3 right now, the new iPad. It has a lot of room for battery, so they can totally, you know, pump out all that energy from those batteries. But if you had an iPad mini, and this mini is supposed to be, the lights just turned off outside, this mini is supposed to be thinner than the iPad, the new iPad, it means there's less room for a battery. And if you put a retina screen in there, you're probably not going to have as good of a battery life. And Apple does care a lot about their batteries. Like, that is the thing that they care about, batteries. So they think it's going to be 163 PPI, and I think it's going to be the same thing. All right. Oh, also, the 3GS is going to be $200 unsubsidized, or it's approaching that $200 range, which is really, really cheap. And I remember talking about it a long time ago. I think it was BGR that reported that Apple will keep making the 3GS, and once they make it, they're going to sell it to these to countries that that don't really make as much as the G8s or the G20s, and they're going to aim for that market. And a lot of people said, well, geez, it's going to cost them so much to keep making parts for the 3GS because you can't use the 3GS parts onto the iPhone 4 and 4S parts. Well, if they're going to keep making the same screens, that might make it worth it, I think. All right, next, MICgadget.com reports from the lines forming in front of Foxconn, and this is amazing. This is like thousands of people lining up in front of Foxconn, and Foxconn doesn't say, "Hey, we're gonna make the iPad Mini." No, they haven't said that, but they did say that we need a lot of people because we're gonna ramp up production, and we need lots of people. So these guys line up in front of Foxconn, and it costs $24 to even register for a chance to get into and get a job. And one requirement, and I thought this was like, oh, okay, that's one requirement is to have good eyesight. You must have good eyesight. And right now I'm looking at these photos, and there are so many young people lined up to get into Foxconn, and a lot of people have totally bashed Foxconn. I'm talking about New York Times here, saying like, oh man, or I think it was the New York Times. Foxconn is totally treating their employees like crap, and they have so much overtime, and they have all this and that, and they're treating their employees like crap. Well, if that was the case, these guys, these guys are all lining up to be treated like crap, which is sad. If that was the case, that means, the guys lining up right now, they don't really have a choice but to go into Foxconn. But then again, if we're overhyping that, the fact that Foxconn treats their employees like crap, why would these guys be lining up? So, two sides of the coin. Next, MidAtlanticConsulting.com found out something weird when it comes to iOS 6. They found that the iOS 6 betas limited the number of apps that you can put on your phone to 500. And they were like, oh, here, Apple, let's send a letter to Apple. And then they sent a letter to Apple. And they were like, yeah, hey, Apple, there's not enough room for our apps here. And Apple's like, you know what? We will check it out and and we'll fix that. 500 apps. I don't even think I have 100 apps on my phone. Like, not even. I think I probably have less than 30 on my iPhone right now. That's the kind of guy I am. I totally I'm relentless when it comes to deleting this sort of stuff. But yeah, 500 apps. You know what? Do you guys hold 500 apps on your iPhone? Next, iMore.com says that they're trying to predict when the iOS 6 is going to come out. And they looked at iOS 6's history, and they looked at all the betas from iOS 5 and iOS, all these different iOSs, and they found out how many betas they had. Well, using the past as an indication of the future, which a lot of mathematicians would say, don't do that. I remember my calculus teacher saying like, yeah, just because this was in the test last year and the year before and the year before doesn't mean it's going to be in the test this year. But yeah, use that, keep that in mind. They also say that with about 6 to 8 betas, that's the average betas that they have, 6 to 8. We've gone through 3 betas right now in iOS 6. If Apple keeps releasing it every 2 weeks, that means that iOS 6 will release in the beginning of October or mid-October, which is pretty much everyone else's guess. I mean, it's either September or October. They also say that it might release right beside the iPhone 4. Now, the iPhone 5. And I don't know if my brain is just messed up, but I remember the iOS is releasing before the actual hardware comes out, like 2 or 3 weeks before the actual hardware comes out. So why would they wait? Why would they break that cycle? Like usually they say announcement, the iPhone 5 is coming and iOS 6 is released right now at this moment. It's releasing, or tomorrow it's going to release, and then in 3 weeks the iPhone 5 will start shipping. All right, next. Stuff.tv says that the Apple TV could launch in 2014. Now this is a blow to all the other rumors that we've had a long time ago, and that's because a lot of the other rumors say, and this is the Apple TV HD, like the actual television, not the puck. And a lot of these previous guys say, oh, it's going to release this year. Well, Stuff.com says that it's going to release in 2014 because Apple doesn't have any relationships when it comes to these media creators and TV channels, and they're not going to have media going into their television. So they need to work out, or Tim Cook needs to work out some deals with these content providers. Hey, put me in the Apple TV. I don't know why I'm pleading for that. It's not like I got like super excellent video, like lots of production. Like I have a lot of information, but production quality on this show, not very high. And I'm going to come out to that. But I am still the best podcast when it comes to Apple rumors. I can't believe I'm the only podcast that does this. I'm sure at some point in time someone's gonna do it. I just happen to be the first, or at least I think I'm the first. You know what? If you guys think that there's someone else out there that purely creates podcasts just for Apple rumors, let me know, because maybe I should talk to them. Maybe we should like collaborate and maybe save some time when it comes to research and reading articles and stuff. Next, DisplayMate.com says that the Apple TV will have the same pixel density as a 1080p television. And it says URL not found. Okay. Let's see. Can I remember this article? They say that a 1080p television right now, and if it's, 10 or 15 feet away from you, that is technically retina. Because your eyes can't really tell the difference, Your eyes think it's retina because of the distance from you. So they say, you know what? The Apple TV can already be branded as retina. Like, it doesn't need to be a 4K resolution or 8K resolution, which would be insane. But it doesn't have to be that high of a resolution because it's already retina right now, technically speaking. And they also say that, okay, why would Apple want to make an HD television? Like, why? What's the point? There's lots of arguments, but their arguments, DisplayMate's argument, would be they want to have the same look when it comes to all their devices. So the Retina MacBook Pro has very rich colors, and so does the iPad, so does the iPhone, and they want to do the same thing when it comes to the Apple TV. Because right now, let's just say I took a photo with my iPhone and I'm checking it out. I'm like, oh, this is such a cool photo. Let me, stream it over to the television and show my family and friends that care about me. I don't have those guys around my life. I'm just kidding. But anyway, you stream it onto the television, and then people look at it on the television and they go, ew, that looks like crap. So they're like, you know what, let's make an Apple television so that your photos and videos look the same on all of your devices, which is kind of a weak argument when it comes, think about it. That's the main reason why they make it. But anyway, news is news. Next, the Cult of Mac says that Steam, as in the Steam client, the super awesome video game company, will start selling Mac could start selling Mac applications in their store. And why do they think this? Well, there were a bunch of mobile Steam users, so there's a Steam application on the iPhone and the Android, and they saw categories that are non-gaming related. I think there was like productivity or just non-gaming related categories. And actually, this actually came from The Verge instead of the Cult of Mac. The source was The Verge, and yeah, I guess I don't know. I have nothing. I got nothing wrong with Steam creating a Mac App Store, though it would be tough for them to kind of integrate it deeply with a Mac. But you know what? Yeah, why not? Why not? Apple needs competition, right? Like they can't just own the Mac App Store. Like there's a lot of applications that I have. Alfred, for instance, if you guys haven't checked it out, Alfred application, check that out. That is probably one of the most used apps that I have right now. And Apple doesn't, the App Store sells it, but it's a limited version because of sandboxing. So yeah, in that case, I think Steam would do well if they held, apps like that, like Text Expander. I use Text Expander as well. And the current version, I think version number 4, is not in the Mac App Store. All right, next. Oh, okay, good. Headlines. I was gonna be like, oh, when is the headline coming? Because the headlines are so awesome. No, it's not that awesome. Oh, I just pressed that button. Headline. The iPhone 5 white, like the white version of the iPhone 5, they have a picture of it. At least the face of the iPhone 5. Oh man, I'm totally butchering that. Headline. The iPhone 5 white faceplate has had its pictures leaked, and it looks just like the black, of course, except it's white. But this is the first time that a white faceplate was ever shown, and it does have the FaceTime camera directly on top of the phone, and it is elongated, so it seems legit, I guess, or somebody's totally pranking everyone else. This comes from Apple Pro. Next, the iPhone 5 will have a Nano SIM card. Says multiple carriers. This is according to BGR. They say these carriers, say that they will have Nano SIM cards. And I looked at a photo of a Nano SIM card. That thing is tiny. Hold on. Nano SIM card. Hold on. I'm searching it up. I'm trying to see how small the Nano. If this picture is real, like the picture I'm looking at, that looks way too small. Like way too small. At least here in the photo I'm looking at. So yes, so Nano SIM card probably coming up in the iPhone because a lot of these multiple carriers are testing them. And next, the iPhone 5 could launch at Q4 this year, according to a Verizon CFO. He was kind of hedging his thing, like, oh, yes, there is an excellent phone coming out this fall, and a lot of people are waiting to buy this phone. That's why they're not buying phones right now. And, and they could be talking about the Galaxy Nexus 4 or whatever, but it's most likely the iPhone. But then again, this guy's probably just guessing. He's like, yes, okay, sure. Q4 sounds like a good bet. That'll come out. Next, Fortune.cnn.com, Fortune.cnn.com says that the iPhone 5 will sell 80 million units. And this is according to Gene Munster. 80 million units. Hold on. Just to give you guys some perspective. I think the iPhone 4 or 4S, I don't know which one, sold around 50 million units. And now the iPhone 5 will sell 80 million. That is a huge bump. We'll see about that. Next, Fortune. I think it's Fortune or Fortune Times or Financial Times. I think FT.com. I think it's Financial Times. No idea. Says that the Nano SIM card are being stockpiled by European carriers because they think that Apple's going to release this new iPhone with a Nano SIM card. So they're like, let's stockpile these SIM cards because we don't want to get caught off guard. Next, another headline from 9to5Macs. They say that the iOS 6 Map app will use, they're actually using 2-year-old data from the C3 technologies that Apple purchased, and that all the cars on the road are blurred out. If your car is parked, it's not blurred out. If it's on the road, it will be blurred out. Next, again from 9to5Mac, they say that FaceTime camera, or the FaceTime feature on all iPhones, could be possible over 3G, but AT&T might charge extra. AT&T and Verizon, they might charge a little bit extra for it. And this is how it might work. You have your iPhone and you say, hey, I want to be able to use 3G and call. Well, that's an extra $5 feature when you buy your phone and you pay an extra $5 a month, which is bullcrap because you're paying for the data. This is a huge rant. I shouldn't get into it, but just quick summary. You are paying for data right now, and they're going to charge you to use FaceTime over the data that you're paying for? Ugh. All right, ToWow.com says that the Mac App Store will require, or they are requiring right now, a 1024 by 1024 icons for all your applications. That is huge. This 1024 by 1024 pixel is more pixels than I think than the 11-inch Air can handle. And what this means is you will have like really nice looking retina icons shrunk down to your dock, and it's gonna make it look more beautiful. But it also pushes, memory and storage, because, well, your computer has to store this, and it makes your apps a lot bigger. And with all these apps that are launched and that are sitting in your dock and in your memory right now, it uses up more memory than usual. Next, BGR says, next. Oh God, I sounded like some cafeteria lady. BGR says that OS X Mountain Lion could come out on July 25th, and it will cost $19.99, 20 bucks. And this is a bunch of sites, not just BGR. A bunch of them are like, it must be on July 25th. I reported a long time ago, or a week ago. Again, from 9 to 5 Mac, they say that the Apple Store are going to have employees, Apple stores out there are going to have employees that are going to stay around overnight on July 24th, which was a Tuesday. And there is a possibility that they're staying around so that they change some signage, or they move the iPad from this side to this side, whatever it is. But it's probably more likely that they're going to install Mountain Lion on all of their devices. And that is most likely going to come out on July 25th. So I guess BGR and 9 to 5 Mac, they're like, hey, it's going to come out on the 25th. And next, from AppleInsider.com, they say that the Apple Store employees are being axed. That's terrible. No, do not axe Apple Store employees. Apple Store employees are being asked to extend their hours on July 25th. So, hey, can you work overtime on July 25th? And that is possibly because they are releasing OS X Mountain Lion, and you're going to need a lot of people to support all these customers that are going to walk in. They're going to say, hey, my application isn't working. I want to get my, my original Lion back. And again, another headline, 9 to 5 Mac says that the Apple campus in Texas, there's going to be an Apple campus in Texas that is going to cost $304 million, and apparently it will house support staff. Now, I don't know, hold on, you're like, this isn't really rumors. Well, when the North Carolina, I think it's from North Carolina, when the North Carolina Apple Store, not Apple Store, data center was coming out, everyone was like, oh, what is it going to be? It's going to be for this, or iTunes and iCloud and all this stuff. So, rumors will come out. And actually, I found this out. Why did Apple choose North Carolina? That's probably because electricity there is cheap, because they use coal. Apple is all about environment, but when it comes to saving money, go to North Carolina. And this Texas campus will house support staff. So people that, that take your phone calls. Actually, I asked every time I call anyone, and anyone related to companies, like, just people in companies that answer, hey, hello, AT&T representative person, how may I help you? Every time I end my call, I always say, hey, by the way, what time is it there right now? And they're like, oh, it's this time. And then I try to guess what city they're in. I'm like, oh, so are you in, Texas? Are you in, not Texas. Texas isn't a city. Is it? There is a Texas city, right? Texas City. Sorry, I'm not an American, as some of you guys. There is a Texas city. That's terrible. You know what? I'm giving all the Canadians out there bad rap. And I can easily edit this video and just take that little part out, but I won't. Oh, man. There is a Texas city, of course. I know Tom Merritt was there. Next, Cult of Mac says that the Wi-Fi offloading will account for, at least in 2016. So, actually, hold on. I don't know why it's so important to do those sounds, but I'm going to do it anyway. Cult of Mac, and this is a story from the Cult of Mac. This is in our rumors and, not our rumors, our patents and pie in the sky, and just pretty much any kind of sort of out there, like you sit down and you go, are you serious? Like how is this a rumor? How are you guessing this right now? That is this section right now. According to Cult of Mac, I forgot who they cited here. There was like a study done somewhere. Totally, good journalistic credibility here. Somebody did a study and they said by 2016, 60% or 16 times the amount of data that we have right now. So whatever data, cellular data that we're transmitting right now, multiply that by 16 times. Hold on, I spelled it wrong. Multiply that by 16 times. And that is the amount of people that will offload their data into Wi-Fi hotspots in 2016. Now, why do you want to do this? Well, there's not a lot of spectrum out there that these cell phone companies can broadcast into, and there's continually, increasing demands when it comes to these cell towers. So now your data slows down. Well, these guys decided, hey, what if you offloaded some of that data into a Wi-Fi hotspot? So let's just say you're parked in front of a bakery and they have this Wi-Fi in it. Well, your iPhone will automatically connect to that and use that data and go through that way. So here are some problems with it, or here are some things that they have to get over. First of all, it has to be a secure connection to that Wi-Fi. So I can totally see some hacker, and I'm not talking about like some evil, conniving, like, no, not that kind of hacker, but, a kind of guy that wants to tinker around. And you set up a software on your router that kind of like pulls all the data and sees how many people connect to you and all that stuff. So you need to find a way to secure this stuff. Second, Wi-Fi owners should not get charged for their bandwidth, right? Wouldn't it suck if you were a bakery owner and, a bunch of these guys are using up your Wi-Fi on their cell phones and all of a sudden you're like, hey, you've reached your bandwidth cap. Definitely, like, if that were to happen, people would be mad. So that shouldn't happen. And it needs to be able to hand off smoothly from Wi-Fi to cell tower and back. Because right now, if you start streaming a video on your iPhone and you leave the house, you leave your Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden you're out in 3G, it has troubles when it comes to loading this stuff when it's in mid-load. So it needs to find a way to smoothly transition from one to the other. All right, and this is via Cult of Mac. Okay, next, another patents and pie in the sky stuff. There's a patent. This is according to Patently Apple. There's a patent on new docks out there. They're going to release a new dock that will allow the connection. So whenever you connect your iPhone to the dock, this connection will move around. So right now, whenever you connect it, it's like this super stiff connection. And if you're looking at the video version, you can see that there's some play here. So what it means is when you kind of like bump your iPhone a little bit, or if you kind of move it around, or let's just say you stood up and you were holding onto your dock and you were just walking, your movement while you walk kind of like shakes the phone back and forth. Or the iPad, actually, this makes sense for the iPad. It'll shake the iPad back and forth, and that could kind of ruin the connection, or maybe loosen up a bit of the connection, or possibly even snap it off completely. Well, this patent says that we're kind of gonna make it more flexible when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if you have your iPhone and you kind of like nudge it a little bit, it'll bend on the dock. So that'll give you stronger docks because it won't break as easily, and less damage to the connections on your iPhone. All right, next, Patently Apple again. You know what, by the way, here's just a comment on Patently Apple. They do great stuff, but it's like their goal is to type out as many words as possible. Because I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, okay, you could have summed that up in a sentence. You could have summed up this whole paragraph in a single sentence. Why don't you just do that? Same thing with Apple Insider, right? Like, I don't know why these guys want to, write up as much stuff as possible. Well, where was I? Sorry, I forgot. I was going on a rant there. The iPad could have better input with tactile feedback and Siri. So maybe like a better Siri in the future and tactile feedback. And it could have Corning's flexible Willow glass. And yeah, they're kind of like, hey, what would an iPad look like with all this stuff? So let's start with the tactile feedback. That means whenever you look at your screen or whenever you touch an application, there's a bump. right? There's a bump there so you can feel the application. You touch the application, and then when you press it, I don't know, like the bump vibrates a little bit or it disappears or what have you. But right now you have a flat screen that has no kind of like physical interaction with you, and humans do like having that physical interaction, like, touching this microphone right here, it feels different from touching the table. Also, better Siri. I don't remember why Siri would be better, but like better integration with Siri. And they thought of a possible application for Corning's Willow Glass. If you guys aren't looking at this image, pretty much they have this glass, super thin glass. It looks like a sheet that you can put on top of your iPhone to protect the screen, but it's made out of glass and they are bending it. Like, it looks like it's about to snap, but it's not snapping. So this would let them create more flexible devices, more flexible screens. And I've seen screens out there, like OLED screens, that have this super flexible screen, which is really nice, because then you can, a lot of them say, hey, now you can roll up your iPad, or the future iPad. You can roll it up and stuff it in your bag until you put your bag on a chair and then somebody sits on it, and now your iPad is crushed. Ugh, no, definitely. That's a terrible idea. Do not roll that thing up and put it in your bag. Maybe if you rolled it up and you put it in like in a canister, right? But now you have to carry a canister instead of just like stuffing it in your backpack. But, that's why I don't think that this whole folding screen would kind of work. But, it is a possibility out there. Next, this is second to last. iMore talks about iPad mini names. They were like, hey, what would Apple name their iPads? The mini iPad. And they say the 7-inch iPad. That was one of their suggestions. And this comes from 13-inch MacBook Air, 11-inch MacBook Air. Also, they can call it the iPad 7. And this is the same thing as the Nexus 7. And they can also call it the iPad 7.85. And I think that was from the Galaxy naming convention. I think there's like a Galaxy 10.1 or something like that. They can also just call it iPad mini. Now, this is what I think. iPad mini makes the most sense, because if they were going to change it to 7-inch iPad, right? If that was what they're going to choose, of course they're not going to choose iPad 7 or iPad 7.85. They're not going to choose that. If they did choose 7-inch iPad, that means they're going to have to rebrand the new iPad as the 9-inch iPad, which takes, now you have to rebrand it as the 9-inch iPad. I think it's better to stick with iPad mini. That makes more sense to me. And finally, the very, very last one, and I think this is one of the cooler patents out there, and coming from Apple Insider, they managed to scoop Panelly Apple from this one. Apple Insider says that there could be advanced hearing aids out there, right? That could be built. Apple patented this, an advanced hearing aid configuration that lets you connect your hearing aid to your iPhone and then configure that hearing aid with your iPhone. So turn up the volume, turn down the volume, turn up this frequency, turn down this frequency, that kind of stuff. And also, it'll take into account what your location is. So let's just say you're in a certain location and there is this just specific type of buzzing with these lights, and you set up on your iPhone that says, okay, ignore this buzzing, right? Like, you needed this hearing aid and it totally amplifies this buzzing. You set it on your iPhone, ignore this buzzing. But whenever you're not in that place, you want to tell it, okay, don't ignore the buzzing. Like, I want to hear, well, when I'm outside this place. So your phone will say, oh, you're not in this place anymore. Let me set up your hearing aid so that it changes accordingly. Also, you can do a sharing. There's a sharing feature. So let's just say I'm in this class right now and I have hearing aids, and the lights up here make a buzzing noise, and I turn that buzzing off using my iPhone. Well, if somebody else walks in, like a new student in the class, so they walk in, they go, oh, I gotta set up my hearing aid so that it works well in this room. Well, they're gonna go, hey, there's a guy here with a hearing aid, and I could probably just use his settings. So then this person would probably use my settings because we're in the same location. We have the same like applications on our phones, or accessibility features on our phones. My phone is going to send her just the information that I've set for my own hearing aid, which is super cool. Like, I think this is great. This is amazing. Like, it's great that Apple's doing this. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of people call in or they write in and they say Apple is just possibly the best smartphone out there that really has robust accessibilities options for people that are blind or can't see well or can't really hear well, or kids with autism, things like that. Apple does an extremely extremely good job. I'm breaking apart here. I gotta drink my water. But Apple does a good job when it comes to this accessibility stuff. And actually, just a little bit of a tip for you guys. I actually use the accessibilities option. I turn on voice, voice reading, so it reads to you. And I set that to the fastest it can read. And then I put on my headphones, and while I'm walking from point A to point B, I can read an article. Like, I listen to an article. Like, you press the paragraph and the iPhone will read the paragraph to you. It sounds like a robotic voice, but yeah, that's what I do if I wanted to really read this article and walk at the same time. Wow. That is the end of the show. I don't know how long the show went for. I think it's like 40 minutes or I have no idea, because I can't see the time that it went on for. But this was probably quite a lengthy show. You know what? I'm probably going to look at the time. It's going to be like 25 minutes, which would suck. Wouldn't that suck? Like, oh man, it felt like 40 minutes, but it actually took 25. Man, it felt like I've been sitting here for an hour. Oh, well, you know what? Before I start my banter, let me do this. All right. Yes, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I was like, okay, how do I finish this show? How do I just stop? Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or questions or concerns, I'm glad that you're concerned about me. If you have any concerns, comments, or questions, email me at applebrute@gmail.com. And I'm probably going to do a lot of things this weekend when it comes to the AppleBruit feed. I'm gonna transfer my hosting from archive.org to Libsyn, and I'm probably gonna transfer it to WordPress and all that stuff. So I have a lot of things to do when it comes to this podcast, and hopefully it doesn't disrupt you guys. Like, I got a feeling that after this transfer, it'll make you download all the episodes all over again. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but yes. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and see you again next time.